A Star is Born, Little Wolfgang and His Tiny Wig, written by Alison Steadman. All right, gather round, loves. Let's talk about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the cheeky little genius with a powdered wig and a piano bigger than his britches. Born in Salzburg, 1756, this lad was a musical prodigy. His dad, Leopold, a right taskmaster but a loving father nonetheless, saw the spark in young Wolfgang's eyes. Imagine, barely out of nappies and already composing concertos. The boy was a walking, talking, harpsichord-playing miracle. From the age of 6, Wolfgang was paraded around Europe, a tiny maestro captivating royalty with his talent. Kings and queens, they couldn't get enough of him. He charmed Marie Antoinette, gave piano lessons to fancy French ladies, and probably even had time for a croissant or two. Those early years were a whirlwind of concerts, composing and trying not to spill hot chocolate on the fancy carpets of Vienna. But don't think it was all sunshine and symphonies. Little Wolfgang, bless him, was a mischievous one. He loved a good prank, had a weakness for sweets, who doesn't, and could throw a tantrum that would make a toddler jealous. He was a genius, yes, but also a real boy, full of beans and bad jokes. And you've got to love him for it, haven't you? From Salzburg to the world, a musical whirlwind. Now, Salzburg was lovely, don't get me wrong. Mountains, Mozart chocolate, what's not to love? But Wolfgang, he yearned for something more. He wanted to be free from his archbishop, a right misery that one, free to compose the music that sang in his soul. So, in 1781, he packed his bags, kissed his mum goodbye, and set off for Vienna, the heart of the music world. Vienna, let me tell you, was a whole other kettle of fish. It was a city buzzing with gossip, intrigue, and waltzes you could practically taste in the air. Mozart, with his talent and charm and those twinkling blue eyes, he fit right in. He found patrons, composed operas that made the critics weep, and even managed to bag himself a wife. But life in Vienna wasn't all champagne and applause. Mozart, you see, was a terrible businessman. Money slipped through his fingers like water. He loved the finer things in life, fancy clothes, lavish parties, and his dear wife, Constanza, well, she liked a bit of spending too. They were forever up to their eyeballs in debt, borrowing from friends, and dodging angry landlords. It was enough to make a composer reach for the high notes. Marriage, melodies, and money troubles. Speaking of Constanza, she was a bit of a character, our Wolfgang's wife. A talented singer, a bit of a flirt, and always up for a laugh. She was Mozart's partner in crime, his muse, his biggest headache, and the love of his life, all rolled into one. They say opposites attract, and these two were like night and day. He, the musical genius, lost in his world of notes and melodies. She, down-to-earth practical, well, as practical as you could be with Mozart as your husband, and always ready with a quick wit and a twinkle in her eye. They had their ups and downs, like any couple. Money worries, the stress of Mozart's work, and the heartbreak of losing several children, it took its toll. But through it all, their love, it endured. She inspired some of his most beautiful music, and he, in turn, adored her, even when she was driving him round the bend with her spending habits. And the music, oh, the music they made together. Those years in Vienna, they were Mozart's most prolific. He was like a man possessed, churning out symphonies, operas, concertos, you name it. The Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, The Magic Flute. Masterpieces, every one of them. He poured his heart and soul into his music, his joy, his pain, his love for Constanza. It's all there, woven into every note. Papageno, the Queen, and a Magical Flute, Mozart's greatest hits. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, Mozart's music. Imagine, if you will, the grand opera houses of Vienna, filled with the scent of perfume and anticipation. The orchestra tunes up, the lights dim, and then magic. Mozart's music, it transports you, sweeps you off your feet, and carries you away on a tide of emotion. Take The Marriage of Figaro, a right romp of mistaken identities, love triangles, and witty banter that would make even the poshest countess blush. Or Don Giovanni, the tale of a charming rogue who gets his just desserts in the end. And who could forget The Magic Flute, a fantastical adventure filled with enchanted instruments, a vengeful queen of the night, and Papageno, the lovable bird catcher with a heart of gold. Mozart's music, it wasn't just for the fancy folk, though. He had a knack for writing tunes that would stick in your head like toffee to a blanket. You know the ones you hum along to without even realizing it. He wrote for everyone, from emperors to street musicians, and his music, it still resonates today, centuries later. But life wasn't all sunshine and roses for our Wolfgang. Oh no, the music world, it's a cutthroat business even back then. Mozart, with his talent and success, well, he made a few enemies along the way. Jealous rivals spread rumors, critics sharpened their quills, and even Salieri, the court composer, well, let's just say they weren't exactly best mates. Mozart, bless him, he wasn't always easy to get along with. He had a temper, our Wolfgang, and a sharp tongue when he was riled. He could be arrogant, demanding, and downright rude, especially after a few glasses of wine. There were arguments, disagreements, and probably a few thrown sheet music pages for good measure. It's a wonder he got anything done at all. But through it all, the music flowed. Mozart, he channeled his frustrations, his triumphs, his loves, and his losses into his compositions. He poured his heart and soul onto the page, creating masterpieces that would stand the test of time. He may have been a handful, our Wolfgang, but he was a genius. There's no denying that. Now, by 1791, Mozart's health, it was failing. Years of hard work, late nights, and probably one too many Viennese pastries had taken their toll. He was thin, pale, and plagued by bouts of illness, but still he composed, driven by some unknown force. One day, a mysterious stranger dressed all in black arrived at Mozart's door. He commissioned a Requiem, a mass for the dead. Mozart, already feeling unwell, became convinced that this Requiem, it was for himself, that he was composing his own funeral music. Spooky, eh? The Requiem, it became Mozart's obsession. He poured all his remaining strength into it, the music taking on a haunting beauty. He worked tirelessly, racing against time, his health deteriorating with each passing day. Whispers of curses and poisons spread through the city. Had Mozart angered someone so much that they wished him dead? Or was it simply the illness, claiming him before his time? On December 5th, 1791, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the musical genius, the prankster, the loving husband and father, breathed his last breath. He was just 35 years old. Imagine, only 35. He left behind a musical legacy that would echo through the ages, but also a grieving wife, 2 young sons, and a pile of unpaid bills that would make your hair curl. The circumstances surrounding his death, they remain a mystery to this day. Was it the fever, kidney failure, or something more sinister? Some say he was poisoned by his rival, Salieri, though there's no real evidence to support it. Others claim he was the victim of a Masonic conspiracy, which is a bit far-fetched, even for Mozart. Whatever the cause, Mozart's death, it was a tragedy. A light, it went out too soon. But the music, it lived on, a testament to his genius, his passion, his love for life, and for Constanza, his beloved Stanzi. Mozart may be gone, but his music, it's more alive than ever. His operas, symphonies, concertos, they're performed in concert halls and opera houses all over the world. His melodies, they pop up in films, TV shows, even ringtones. You can't escape Mozart, even if you wanted to, and why would you? He left behind a legacy of joy, laughter, and pure, unadulterated genius. He showed us that music, it can move us, transport us, make us laugh, make us cry, make us feel truly alive. He broke the rules, pushed boundaries, and composed with his heart on his sleeve, and we're still reaping the rewards centuries later. Mozart's life, it may have been short, but it was a life lived to the fullest. He squeezed every last drop out of it, filling it with music, laughter, love, and a healthy dose of mischief. So the next time you hear a Mozart tune, raise a glass to the cheeky little genius with the powdered wig and the heart of gold. He wouldn't want it any other way.